anybody say, hey, you should just read the manga, or hey, you should just watch the anime. Black Clover is one of those series that you could basically do either one and it's still going to be an excellent product. Now, there's obviously some differences and some similarities between the two. If you ask me, I would say that the anime adapts the manga really faithfully, because if you're a longtime anime fan, you know some anime don't adapt the manga like one-to-one. They pretty much go off and do their own thing, kind of like Boruto. If you've ever seen Boruto, Boruto kind of does its own thing separate from the manga, and I'm not going to get too much into that here, but nonetheless, Black Clover stays really faithful to the manga. It pretty much only has material from the manga that's included into the anime. Now, I know here and there are some fillers, but the filler in Black Clover, in my opinion, it adds to the overall story. Honestly, I would say if you're a true Black Clover fan, for you to read the manga and to watch the anime, because they both really deserve to be consumed, honestly. Because if you don't watch the anime, then you're gonna miss out on some of the amazing things about the anime, such as the anime openings. And Black Clover has some of the best openings in all of anime. I can tell you right now that I've never watched the Black Clover opening and then been like, that was bad, because they're all good. Every Black Clover opening that I've ever seen was good. So with that said, if you only read the manga, you're going to be missing out on a lot of the openings. Same thing with the endings. The endings are really good, and the endings sometimes put some foreshadowing in there. And it's not like it's foreshadowing straight from the manga. It's kind of like anime only foreshadowing, because, you know, like the anime has to do extra things to sell you on it than the manga. And I know some people might not consider things like the openings and the endings canon, but you got to realize that Tabata has some input. So the people who make the anime have more insider information than we do, you know? So they're going to be making a show and they have insider information. So Tabata can easily tell them some stuff that he's going to do in the future of the manga, and they can implement it into the anime, but it isn't implemented into the manga. And they do that sort of like just an incentive to watch the anime. The thing about the manga is, I feel like the manga has superior art than the anime, but that doesn't mean that the anime is lacking in the art department. It just means that Tabata is really good at character designs and implementing them into the page of a manga, because, you know, the manga is in black and white at the end of the day. So something like an anime is always going to be in color, and the details sometimes are different. Let's say you have a really dark moment, you're able to play around more with the darkness of tones in a manga than you are in an anime, because usually animes are a lot more brighter because they're filled with more color. So it's a somewhat different experience, but I will argue not too different, but just something to note nonetheless. So they basically both have their strengths and weaknesses. One of the main strengths of the anime is you get to see things animated, and whenever you're reading a fight in a manga, yes, it's going to be amazing and cool, but once you animate it, it's going to bring it to a whole nother level. Take, for example, episode 100 of Black Clover, whenever Licht was facing off against Yuno and Asta. In the manga, that part was epic, don't get me wrong, but in the anime, they elevated it to an entirely new level with just great animation. Great animation can really immerse you in the world of an anime, and a lot of people like to say that Black Clover doesn't have good animation, and that's just simply not true. I can show you a lot of clips of Black Clover having great animation. In reality, ultimately, you probably would want to consume both forms of media, because the anime is going to have some parts that are not in the manga, and the manga is going to have some parts that might not be in the anime, because there's these things called anime only arcs, and sometimes they're canon and sometimes they're not. But in the case of Black Clover, some of them are canon. So basically what that means is something that happens in the anime might not have shown up in the manga, but somewhere further down the line in the manga is going to end up popping up in like a flashback or something like that. And you're not going to know what they're talking about, but it happened in the anime. It just didn't happen in the manga because, let's say, they skipped over it. Basically what I'm trying to get at is they really intertwine with each other. So basically, just because the manga had a time skip doesn't mean they're going to skip that amount of time in the anime. And they might, you know, show what actually happened. Most of the time, you're not really going to miss out on much if you do decide to choose one over the other. Like I said, if you're a true fan, you probably want to consume both just so you can get the full context. But you're not going to be missing out on much if you don't. Because, like, at the end of the day, most of the time, the anime is a spot-on adaptation of the manga. So with that being said, hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please leave me a thumbs up, comment, and subscribe. It's been your boy NeoXO, and I'm out.